nice glue with this. There you go. If we had a headset.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. I just want to make sure you can all hear me okay. Can someone just type in the chat box there that you can, in fact, hear me and see the screen? Oh, sounds good. Deanna says we're good. All right. Perfect. Yep, you can all hear me. Good. Okay.
It's not Jarrett Chung Smith that's actually playing the sound, is it? I don't know. It sounds like him.
Yep, it's Jarrett.
Oh.
All right. Let's get going. So I have with me tonight Carla Berry, who's going to be doing most of the presenting, as she's the expert on everything self-determined. So Carla, if you want to just go to the next slide here, and I'll just run through a few things. All right, so I recognize some of the names from our previous webinars, but some of you might be new to the software, so I just want to run through a few best practices before we get going. So you will notice there's a little microphone button on your screen, and I see some of you still have your microphone turned on, so I would ask that everyone just mutes their microphone, just so we can reduce the background noise. There will be an opportunity to ask questions, which if you have a microphone at that time, you can turn it back on to ask those questions. So if you do have questions, there are a couple options we have here. You can, one, raise your hand. You might see a little hand button where you can click on that, and that'll notify me that you have a question. And then I'll turn to you, and you can turn your microphone and ask that. Or you can simply just type into the question box, and throughout the webinar, I will be monitoring the question box, so we'll try to get most of your questions answered tonight. Perfect. So I see everyone's microphone is off. Perfect. All right, Carla, you want to change slides here? All right, so just before I turn it over to Carla, I just want to go through what we will be discussing tonight. So we'll start by talking about what exactly a self-determined project is. We'll go through the steps of planning, choosing, carrying out, evaluating, and marking the project, and then any quick tips to help you and your members succeed with the self-determined, and then also some available resources related to the project. So I just want to launch a couple polls here just so we can get an idea of our audience tonight. So the first one here. All right, so if you all just participate in the poll, get an idea of how you are involved with 4-H, so we can kind of see who we're gearing this towards tonight. Alrighty. So it looks like we're all leaders here. Okay, so perfect. So it would have been nice to have a couple members, but that's okay. You can make sure to share all this information with your members that might be interested in these projects. And then we're also going to be showing these or saving these webinars online so they can be viewed at a later date if members are interested that way. And I just have one more poll here. Oh. My computer's just acting up. That's okay. All right, here we go. So I just want to get a sense of if you have been involved with the self-determined. I guess at this point it would be or in a leadership capacity as a project leader with that. All right, so it looks like the majority of you are fairly new or haven't been involved with the project, so that this will be good. And Carla will give a good rundown of everything that's involved with the project. So Perfect. All right, so I will now pass it over to Carla, and you can introduce yourself and take it away from there.
Okay, here we go. Everybody can hear me, I guess. So thank you, everybody, for taking the time to come out of your busy schedules to take part in this Self-Determined Project webinar. And thanks also to Jarrett for putting all the techie stuff together to make it happen. I work out at the Williams Lake office, so I'm the go-to person if you have questions about your self-determined and or junior leader projects. So I'll answer questions after the various segments of the webinar just to keep the questions a bit on track and continue to what we just went over. So, oh, and also just need to let everybody know that I'm kind of sick tonight. I have a flu or a cold or something, so I've sort of said to Jared, if I suddenly have to mute and cough and have a drink or blow my nose or something, there'll be a little blank, but I swear I'll get right back to you. So let's get going. So what is a self-determined project? And my little mouse jumps all over the place here. I have to keep training it to go back to the little arrow so I can switch the slide. So a self-determined project is considered an out-of-the-ordinary type project, and it's a project that we haven't developed specific 4-H project and content or material for yet. So this is a publication. What is a self-determined project? This is a publication 5010, and it's the self-determined project guide. This is what it looks like here. There's the front page of it. It's quite a booklet, so print yourself off a copy of that publication. It has kind of everything you need to know about self-determined projects, and it's a good idea to read through this booklet or this publication before you're deciding on a project. So what is a self-determined project again? This page comes off the self-determined regulations, publication 5001. It shows here that there's three units as described here. Unit 1, the junior; Unit 2, the group; and Unit 3, the senior self-determined. The junior project, Unit 1, basically means that it's a junior member, and the member has not written junior proficiency. The group, Unit 2, is a group of any various ages of members. They can be juniors and seniors. And the senior, of course, is a senior member as far as 4-H goes. It's a member that has written the junior proficiency. So make sure that the members are on the enrollment and enrolled in a self-determined project, either in Unit 1, 2, or 3. And also ensure that the club has a self-determined project leader on the enrollment and is enrolled in that specific project. That's pretty important because you can't have a member enrolled in your club and not have a project leader. So I'll change it. I wish I could keep this thing here. There we go. So choosing a project, this information again is in the publication of the Self-Determined Project Guide, and it will take you through many various ideas as to how for the member and the leader to choose a project. There's lots of ideas and suggestions in the guide, so whatever happens to work for the leader and the member. Often the member already maybe has a project in mind, but if not, you can follow some of the steps that are laid out in the guide. There's many members and leaders that aren't aware that a self-determined project even exists, so creating some project awareness will be key in promoting this type of project in the future of your club. So just give you a minute there to have a look and read that. That's up on the slide. So first of all, that the member might have an idea and they might share it with the leader, or vice versa. Maybe the leader has an idea and might share it with the member. However it comes to be, the member and leader need to discuss it together. they'll take a look at that publication 5010 either together or on their own. They can do some reading and thinking. The leader and member can then get back together again and share some more thoughts and discussion. So make sure as a leader that you ensure that the project is achievable for the member. We certainly want to see the member be able to achieve and complete, so pay attention and be aware of the members, any of the members' strengths and capabilities. Any questions so far?
No, it doesn't look like we have any questions, so let's carry on.
Whiz right through this. So planning the project. Again, this information comes from the self-determined project regs, and it explains what the self-determined project plan is about. So the members expected to write out an outline of the project and submit it to the project leader and the youth development staff person designated, which is me, for the approval prior to the start of the project. And the self-determined outline guide should be used. And you'll look at the outline guide in the publication 140H, and all these publications that we talk about or I talk about will be offered up at the end so that you can print them out. So again, the outline, when the member's writing up, and once the leader and the member have decided what it is that the member's going to do, then the member has to write up an outline, 100 to 200 words, and this outline should be well thought out with lots of obvious thought and detail. So planning the project. This lays out the questions that the member needs to answer and cover off in their outline. So the outline, when the leader or the member is writing up the outline, these are the questions that the member needs to pay particular attention to when he's writing the outline. So the main idea, what is the project that you've decided on? Why did you choose this project? What are your goals? What do you hope to learn from the project? What are your resources? What is your plan of action, your monthly plan? And how do you plan to present information from this project to your club? And when do you plan on starting your start date and your finish date, of course, depending on whether you're in Unit 1, 2, or 3. So I've sort of written out an example here to sort of explain that how an outline might get written. And so I decided on that the member might decide that he or she wants to construct a chicken coop. So that would be your main idea. What is the project you've decided on? So the member's gonna build or construct a chicken coop, and you'll go into some detail answering that question. Certainly, again, needs to be lots of thought and detail, not any little simple one-word answers. And why did the member choose this project? And I thought, well, you know, my chicken coop days, I guess, because a good chicken coop is important to chicken husbandry, and maybe their existing chicken coop is not in very good shape. What are your goals? What do you hope to learn from the project? Well, you know, maybe more roosting space or better nesting boxes where the eggs can be gathered from the outside of the coop, and hoping that the new coop will make the chickens happier and they'll lay more eggs, and they'll learn numerous carpentry skills from this project as well. They go through all these questions and they're answering them all fully, and again, like I say, a 1 to 200 word outline or plan for that one. I've highlighted the what is your plan of action or your monthly plan. You have the member has to list out a month-by-month plan of what they plan to do and how they plan to work towards their finished goal. So they need to you know, go January, February, March, April. Oops, I clicked here, went back. And list out every month as to what they plan to do and what their plan of action is. And the reason why I highlighted that is it's funny because that's one thing in the outline that often gets missed. I don't know why that is, but they do the 100 to 200 word outline, but then they miss the monthly plan. So I highlighted that just to clarify that that's what they need to do. Again, depending on the time frame with their month-by-month plan, if it's a junior, well, we're looking at a 4 to 6 month plan. If it's the group self-determined, again, it's the 4 to 6 month plan. Or if it's the senior, then it's the 10 to 12 month plan. So once you've completed the answer, or the members completed the answers to the preparing your outline questions, and they've completed their monthly plan that we've just talked about, then the project outline and the monthly plan need to be reviewed by the leader. So the leader will sit down and go over that with the member and do some final tweaking, and then the outline and the monthly plan can be sent on to me for approval at the address indicated there. And the deadline, the deadline date for the self-determined projects is March 31st. So bear in mind to that. And make sure that the outline has the member's name and address on it when it's sent to me for approval, so that I know where to send it back. Amazingly, I get many approvals with no name and no address on them, and particularly this happens, it seems, when the outlines and the month-by-month plan is emailed to me. For some reason, you know, there's no form to fill out like there is with the junior leader projects. There's no form, they have to do it all. So it seems to be a step that's often missed. Okay, any questions? Okay, we'll go on to the next slide.
Yep. Still no questions. You're covering all of it.
Whoa, this is going to be a fast webinar. Okay, so carrying out the project. Record keeping is key to a successful project. What should I include in telling your project story? And remember, as markers of projects, like myself, and Jarrett does some marking too, that we can only mark based on what is provided in that finished book. So that's where there needs to be lots of information in the book, so that, you know, that everything that's went on, everything that they've done is there, so that we can mark according to that. So now that the outline and the plan has been sent off to me for approval, the member needs to start working on the project right away. So even though they've sent it in, they don't need to wait for me to get the approval back from me, because this process could take 4 to 6 weeks depending on how many projects I have to approve. And once I've approved it, I will send the member and the leader an approval letter with some thoughts and ideas, as well as the scorecards, because there's a leader scorecard and my scorecard. And I'll send the evaluation questions. That's included in the approval letter, that will need to be answered when the member completes the project. So I'll send the scorecards with the approval letter, so that the member and the leader can know what is expected in the final result. So when you get that approval letter, the member will get an approval letter with these attached copies, and the leader will also. So those scorecards need to sort of be looked at and reviewed at various times in your project, just to make sure that the member's doing everything that will enable the member to achieve his or her best possible mark. And leaders, make sure that you make the members aware of the scorecards too. Sometimes they just kind of get pushed off to the back and they don't see the importance of it. And then according to the member's monthly plan that they've submitted, the member will sort of check with that throughout their year working on it, and follow along with their monthly plan and make sure that they're doing what they had thought they were going to do. It's not a big deal if something happens and they decide, oh, well, you know, that didn't work out, and so I can't do that. I'm certainly okay with changing that monthly plan, but that should be reflected at the end when they're saying, well, I didn't do this because, and this is why. So you know, even though it's a monthly plan and I've approved that, I'm open to some changes, if, you know, all for a good reason. So my suggestion is here, and that's why Jarrett put this nice picture of this nice box here, but my suggestion for the members to keep a big box at the start of the project And throughout the whole entire time of the self-determined project, keep all those important items pertaining to the project, because very often many of these little important odds and ends that come up missing and never end up in the finished book. And keeping in mind, remember that I can only mark what I see in the book. So that's why it's important to include all of those extras, which are all important details, things like handouts and quizzes and agendas, phone lists if the member's doing some type of a project where they have to phone other members or phone leaders or phone people, you know, anything that's to do with that project should be in that book. Research and list the research sites, you know, might be websites, it might be the self-determined project guide, but list all that stuff out. Mentors, like often I find with self-determined projects, like a member might have a grandpa or a neighbor or somebody that's really helped a lot. Well, those kind of things should be listed. And probably the most important thing that I find when I'm marking is pictures. They are so important. Like that's how I really get to see what happened with the project. So pack a camera, have them pack a camera with them, or maybe they can designate somebody to take pictures for them, or yeah, just make sure that there's lots of pictures included. So this is where you can go back to your self-determined project guide for some tips and suggestions about putting together a good finished self-determined record book, because lots of that information is in that self-determined guide.
Carla, we do have a question here, if I could interrupt you real quick. Susan has asked, do members enrolled in the group self-determined project keep a separate record book, or can they work together on a record book?
Well, each member of the group has to submit their own record book, and the record books need to be unique from the other members. I know when I received the group members' record books for marking, I don't want to see any obvious similarities. So I often suggest in groups is that if it's a type of project that everybody can work on something within the group project separately, that's the best, because they all have to submit their own record book, and it all needs to be very unique and individual. So no copying. So yes, they do have to submit their own record book. That answer your question?
Yep, I think you got it there.
Okay, I'll go on. So carrying out the project, the role of the leader. What should the leader be doing as a self-determined project leader? Well, you should be meeting with your members monthly to provide ongoing encouragement and direction, and help to keep the members focused and on track. And you also, as a leader, need to include written and dated comments in the member's record book. So every month, at the end of the month, when you meet with your member to go over things, you need to provide those comments in their book. So as a self-determined project leader, your responsibility is to meet with the members monthly and give them that valuable member direction and encouragement, and to provide your monthly written dated comments that's to be included in the book. Be very honest with your comments. It doesn't always have to be high fives. And here's where you offer your honest direction and encouragement. Put the member, this is often something that I find that's unique with self-determined projects, is if you can put the member on the agenda at your club and or your district council meetings to help make others aware of what the member is doing. And it's just an opportunity to explain to others what in fact is a self-determined project. This is just kind of a good all-around exercise. It helps the members with public speaking skills and social skills. And another note of interest, like summertime can be so busy when everything else seems to be going on in the summertime. This is where that big box can come in handy. If the member's keeping all of those important items, they can be organized and included when he or she gets ready to put the final record book together. Instead of wishing and thinking, gee, I wish I'd have kept that, or I wish I had a picture of that, then it'll be in the box. Remind and remind and remind your members to collect all those extras. And summertime is certainly a time when members and probably leaders can get off track due to so many other things going on. So leaders help the members stay focused. I usually do a follow-up call in the late spring or early summer to touch base with the leaders to see how things are going. So at that time it gives me and the leaders, and sometimes I even call the members, don't hesitate to call or email me if you have any questions at all. So any questions on carrying out the project?
Yeah, we have one question here. Kim wants to know, have you ever denied a project proposal, and could you kind of explain what happens if you don't like the project idea?
Well, I honestly have never denied a project or declined one, and the reason being is that we can always work around it. We can always make it work. It might take some emails or some phone calls back and forth, but if somebody's pretty passionate about wanting to do a certain project, and the only time is if it might get denied is if there was some safety issues or danger to the public or something. We've had bison projects that we haven't denied. We've let them go ahead, but they have to show them in a home environment. They weren't able to bring them to a public venue. So there are some times that it might be denied if it was for safety purposes. But no, I honestly have not denied one, and there's always ways of working around and getting it through.
Yeah, just to add on to that, if you are unsure or just want some suggestions or some feedback before a member submits a proposal, you can always send Carla an email or give her a call, and she can kind of give you some direction and guidance on that. Another way that it might get denied, or well, not necessarily denied, but it might fit more maybe into a senior management project or something. So we might just review it that way and see if it maybe fits in a different spot.
Very good. I forgot to mention that. Yes, there are some self-determined projects that sort of get conflicting with whether or not it should be a senior management project. So one thing to look at is on your project regulations. If the back pages on the senior management page on the project regulations has anything to do with the project, then it likely will go as a senior management. So that just takes some discussion. So if you want to do a self-determined project and it sort of leans towards the senior management, well, we'll direct you that way. Thanks, Jarrett, for bringing that up.
Perfect. Yep, that was the only question right now. So.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now that the members pretty much got their record books completed, we're guessing that they've worked it through all the year and now it's completed. So we'll move on to the evaluation and the scorecards. Oh, let me get my little arrow here going again. So here's the leader scorecard. So you as leaders at the end of the project will be filling this scorecard out, and that's my scorecard. So these scorecards are what I send when I do the approval. I'll send a copy of these scorecards to you, and they can and should be used as a checkoff list for this project. And as you check it off, you can just make sure that everything has been completed. So the members brought you his or her finished book. You'll sit down even with the member and the scorecards and go through each of these items and make sure that everything's completed before it's sent to me for marking. Okay. So evaluating the project, self-evaluation. Evaluation helps the members to stay on track, keep their goals. It teaches them to learn from experience. And in the evaluation process, was it a good year? And the evaluation at the end of the year will help you decide whether or not you've achieved what you planned out to do. And you need to the member needs to sort of question every aspect of the project as it relates to the success of that project. So evaluation is an important project, an important part of this project. Here are the self-evaluation questions, and again, these questions are also sent to the member and the leader at the time of approval, so they'll be able to review and go over them throughout the year. I wasn't going to read these out individually, but we have lots of time, so I think I will go through them. So at the very end of the project, when the member has completed, they need to sit down and go over these questions. What progress did you make towards the goals set at the beginning of the year? So here you might be looking at your outline or your monthly plan. Refer back to that. What were your key successes? Or what did you find most interesting about your project? What did you learn from this project? Did you follow the outline set out at the beginning of the year? What changes did you make and why? What do you think you could do better if you had the opportunity to go back over the year, and explain that? Did you develop new skills as a result of this project? Did you share some of your knowledge and enthusiasm about your project with other people? What do you feel you as an individual achieved through your self-determined project? And would you like to continue learning about this and continue the project next year, or would you rather choose something entirely different? So these questions need to be answered as part of the final completion of the record book. The questions must be answered fully and with lots of thought and detail. No one-sentence answers will be acceptable. And see at the bottom of that slide where it says, do not use this page to answer these questions. Questions need to be fully answered in paragraph form on a separate paper and included in your finished book. I've actually received this page in finished self-determined record books where the member has just copied this page and he or she has written their little one-sentence answers in each of those little blanks there. So that's not acceptable. So as a member reviewing it, make sure that hasn't happened. And also ensure that when you're checking off the list, make sure that these answered questions are included in the finished book. So now the leader reviews the finished book, and the leader also uses the scorecard as a checklist to make sure all is complete. If there are things missing or needs to be corrected, maybe keep an eye on spelling. I'm quite a hard marker with spelling. The leader needs to return the book to the member to get it all blitzed up, and the member will come back to the leader with the book, and that's when it's completed as far as the member's concerned. So next we'll go on to marking. Is this the one that we went? There. I'll have to go back to that one. So marking. This is the leader scorecard. So this is after everything's done and the leader's satisfied that the member has got the book together all properly. The leader needs to sit down and fill out the name and address, make sure that's up there. That's helpful for me. And then just go through these points here for consideration and put a tick mark and some comments. And then at the end you can go down and add them all up and put the score there, put your date and sign it. So the leader completes the scorecard. He packages up the entire record book and sends it off to me for marking. The leader mark that the leader puts down here will be added to the mark that I provide on my scorecard. So the two marks are added together. And please, leaders, don't send me a book to mark if you don't think it should pass. So that's up to you to decide before you send it to me. Sometimes, maybe the member's petered out and hasn't completed it, and kind of at the end just thinks, oh well, I'll just send it in anyway. Like, don't do that. Keep the member focused and get a good completed record book before it comes to me. So I receive it, then I do the final marking. I'll do my scorecard. Sometimes when I'm marking, I might feel that the member needs to do some more work to achieve a 75% mark, so I'll take your mark and my mark and add. If I just don't feel it should pass and it's not going to make a 75% mark, I'll return the book to the leader, which I've generally discussed with the leader ahead of time. And, you know, we've talked about suggestions as to, you know, what the member can do to add some more to the book to finish it up. So the leader, I'll send it back. The leader and the member can decide what needs to be done. They can have another sit down and decide that. And maybe some examples of why I might not think that the finished book is worthy of a 75% mark. There might just not be enough content or detail. Sometimes I get a finished self-determined book, and it's like you can tell as soon as you open the envelope that there's not much to it. Now, considering this book is supposed to be 10 to 12 months for a senior self-determined project, it should have a lot of content. Again, now if it's a junior and it's only 4 to 6 months, I'm not as hard a marker on the juniors, of course. The group ones, they're 4 to 6 months too, so they might not have as much content either, but you know, again, we're going to have some seniors maybe in the group and some juniors, so that's dependent too. Another reason why they might not get a 75% mark, maybe they haven't provided any pictures or very few extras. Maybe there's no resources listed or noted. Or maybe the self-evaluation questions aren't answered fully. Maybe somebody has tried to do the one-sentence answers. Or maybe the leader hasn't provided the monthly comments. Those monthly comments are really, really helpful to me in my marking. So when all that's done and it's returned to me again, if I've sent it back to get some additions to it, I'll send it back, and the member and the leader can go over it, and you can resubmit it, and the member needs to get the 75% mark to get his or her self-determined project certificate, which can also be used as a stepping stone to qualify for graduating credits in our BC 4-H external credit program. So see here, get this next slide.
Just before you go to that, Carla, we do have a question here from Heidi. Heidi just wants to know, do you prefer handwritten or typed record books?
Well, back in the days, like I've almost been doing these projects for 25 years now. Back in the days, they didn't allow the typed one. They had to be handwritten, and I quite like that, because I'm finding that the youth nowadays are not as good at handwriting as they used to be. But now they've opened it up, and they're allowed to. There's even some online projects that you can fill out, but self-determined is not one. There's no record book for it. It has to be all completed from scratch, and it can be done on the computer, so it can be written or on the computer. Okay, Jared, I'm looking for this one. Here you are. So this sort of shows how the self-determined projects work and how they can be used as a stepping stone to to achieve an honor certification. So the member would have to complete a project pin certification, get your 4 project senior skills in whatever project they're in. You add that to a self-determined senior self-determined project, and that would qualify the member for an honor pin and honor certification. So there's the marking again. That's the scorecard that the leader will mark and fill out, and it will be forwarded in to me.
We have another question here, just about credits there, Carla. So Heidi wants to know, if it is a group project with both junior and seniors in the project, the seniors still get skills credit?
They don't get credit. They wouldn't get credit if they are in a group, but if if the senior enrolls as a senior self-determined project as part of a group, but they completed their project over a 10 to 12 month time, then they would get the credit. But they have to, they are allowed to be part of the group, but they have to be enrolled as a senior self-determined project. Does that make sense? Like the rest of them in the group, like you might have some juniors and you have some seniors in the group. You might have the juniors, they would only have to do a 4 to 6 month as part of a group, and you might have some seniors that only want to do 4 to 6 months, but those ones would not qualify as the stepping stone for external credits. The only ones that would qualify is a senior self-determined project, which might be part of the group, but they'd have to complete a 10 to 12 month self-determined project. Make sense? Okay, well, we're just whizzing right through here, so
I have another question here, Carla.
Okay.
Susan has asked, is it mandatory that members present senior management projects in some way to the club or 4-H public group?
Yes, for a self-determined project, I don't know, you can maybe answer about the senior management, but self-determined project should be shown at a fair or somewhere, like, you know, it should be set up like much the same as a display for demonstrations or something. It should be publicly shown at a fair or a venue. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, I think that was the question. There was just confusion with senior management and self-determined, but yeah, that's good.
Okay. So, any more questions about the valuation and the marking before I click the next button here? And we're going to go on to the recap.
Yep, no other questions.
Okay, so the recap here is basically the steps that it takes to complete a self-determined project. So we've kind of gone over all of these. So the first step is to choose the project. The next step is to plan it. The next step is carrying out and the evaluation process and the marking. And that's the process for a self-determined project. Quick tips. These are just some quick tips that I think that over the years that everybody has sort of provided these quick tips to help make a project work out better. So make sure you read the regulations and the member is eligible for that project. You need to seek approval from the youth development staff, and in the approval process, the staff person approving will make some helpful suggestions. If the project you have in mind does not meet the specific requirements, maybe, then talk to the youth development staff, and we can certainly help you with some ideas and expanding on the project. You need to send the outline for approval before you start, or before you start the project, but not to wait for the approval to get back. So you get working on it right away. Like I said, it could take me 4 to 6 weeks to get the approval letter back. So make sure that you get the member working on it right away, and make sure that outline that the member is sending is thorough. It needs to provide lots of detail on those questions that we talked about at the beginning about how, when, and what you hope to learn from the project. When the youth development person writes the approval letter, they might offer some ideas or some questions, and this is just to help the member and the leader think about, you know, what direction they're going. And just like your outline, make sure you've completed your project in detail. You should leave the marker with no questions about what you did. And so lots and lots of detail on that. Spelling and grammar, I said that I'm kind of a stickler on spelling. As I start to mark a project book, I have these little sticky things, and I sort of note any spelling mistakes. But it seems like once I get past 10 spelling mistakes, and I quit noting them. I just mark it on the scorecard that the spelling really, really badly needed to be proofread, and that's one way of avoiding many spelling mistakes, is have the member give the book to somebody to proofread before it goes to the leader, and then those spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes can be corrected before they come to me, because they're going to lose marks on that. Include pictures, lots and lots and lots of pictures. Oh, I love pictures. They're what really helps me get you know, it's like telling the story. It's what helps me to see how the project has went. And they really provide an image to match the words and make your project come alive. Work together, member and leader, as they can help one another in planning and staying on track. And when sending in your completed project, make sure the leader has completed their comments in the portions of the scorecard. So those are my quick tips, and I guess I'm probably done. I'm going to say thank you for everybody for signing in tonight, and remember to call me if you have any questions. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions and help whenever I can. And often your early questions can help avoid confusion in some situations. So bye for now, and I'll turn it over to Jared.
All right, thanks, Carla. So before we wrap up here, I want to make you aware of the 3 publications that are related to self-determined projects. That in these publications, Carla has basically described everything that's in them, plus there's a lot more other information there, good information on the project. So we have the project regulations, which highlight the different units and the timelines on that. The project guide, which is a great resource to help members in choosing projects and making those decisions. And then the publication 140H, which is the project scorecard, which has the leader evaluation and also the member self-evaluation, and then the evaluation for the youth development staff as well. So, like Carla mentioned off the top, these publications we have made them available for you to download here. So when we wrap up, I'll leave the webinar open for a few minutes for you to download those. If you don't get a chance to do that tonight, all of them are available on just the general resources page on the 4-H BC website. You just want to go to the next slide there, Carla. Well, it doesn't look like we have any other questions at this time, so one more slide. All right, so I just want to make you aware of the upcoming webinars we have scheduled. This is the last one for the year. As we know, December is a very busy month for everyone, so we'll be back in January. On January 17th, we'll be discussing senior management projects, so be sure to join us for that. And then on January 31st, we'll be looking at junior leader 4-H projects. Registration is open for these projects. I see that some of you have already registered, so that's great. Those can be found by going to the leader training page on the 4-H website. And again, both of these webinars will be available to members, leaders, and parents. So definitely encourage your members and also parents that might be interested in getting those members involved in these different projects. So it doesn't look like there are any other questions, so I will wrap it up for tonight. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. If you do think of any other questions, feel free to call or email myself or Carla, and we'll be sure to help you out. So I will leave this open for a few minutes for you to download those publications, but other than that, thanks again, and have a good night.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.